G'day fellow flight simmers and random YouTubers. Well, sorry being late. I thought I was streaming, and I was streaming away for 20 minutes before I realised, hello, it's pretty quiet. I don't hear anyone. So anyhow, that was a bit of a stuff up. Okay, so what I'm planning to do, hopefully I'm going to give you, hi physics, how you going? I did plan to do Melbourne, but Melbourne's occupied at the moment. So we're here in Perth, and you look at this, when I set myself up, hopefully you all know how to connect. Now, when I do tower control, I sort of set up like this. Obviously, I'll explain this. This is the Perth setup from here, but I've got Melbourne here. That's Melbourne, because I want to talk to you about different things. Okay, so once you've connected, and hopefully you know how to connect, and there might be a video out on how to connect. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, once we're connected and we're on the Sweatbox channel and all that, the first thing you need to do is set up your ATIS. Now, there's a good chance you'll be examined in Melbourne. Now, Melbourne has what they call crossing runways operations. In other words, you can have two runways for departures and one for an arrival, depending on the winds. So I just make sure, if it's examined in Melbourne, make sure you read all the stuff there is to Melbourne under the SOP. You've got here all the SOP. So wherever you get examined, make sure you read all this stuff. And there's a lot of good gear here. So just be aware, make sure you absorb everything, understand everything. That's your first port of call before you're being examined. Okay, so make sure you understand how METAR works and all that, or how to decipher a METAR, and that way you can just choose which runways to use. Now, I'm not expecting to have LASO. See, in Melbourne you have you can have LASO, depending on the wind conditions and anything, you can have LASO ops. But I'm assuming that you're probably going to have two runways, runway 16 for arrivals, 27 departures, or maybe you just have one runway. It's up to you to decide. And then the examiner will flow through that. We'll go with that. So you've got your ATIS running, and also be aware, and don't be a goose. Let's say, for example, if you've got 3-4 arrivals, make sure that, don't say expect ILS approach runway 34, because 34 doesn't have an ILS. So understand which runways have what type of approaches, and that way you don't look like an idiot when you're setting up your ATIS. So just have a look at your charts and understand the different types of approaches that you can do into Melbourne, assuming that's, of course, where you're going to be examined in Melbourne. Okay, so that's the one thing. Make sure different types of approaches. The runway mode formatting is probably the next thing I want to talk to you about. And you can have a look at here. If you have a look here, runway mode. So you got here for Melbourne 27 AD 34D. What that means is, well, it tells you there, 27 for arrivals, runway 34 departures, northeast, runway 27 for all other departures. So if you get examined in Melbourne, that is used a lot of times. Or this one is the other one that's going to, and it's probably, you may use this actually in your exam. You've got 16 arrivals, 27 departures. Once again, that depends very much on the winds. So these are the two most common ones used. And there's a fair chance you'll be on doing both runways because they want to test you. They may have an aircraft flying in, landing, and you've got an aircraft sitting there. So, the examiner's looking to see, well, what's he going to do with the guy lined up on runway 27? Will he launch him while another guy's coming in? And this is why you need this top view, because you want to know aircraft coming in. Okay, so that's, I'll just refer, I've got some notes here, so I'll just make sure that, okay, the next thing, of course, is knowing how to do your clearances. Now, as you probably learnt in your ATC training, there's a few types of SIDs. One is your procedural SID, where you've all heard it before, docel SID, non-ex SID, so let's say, for example, velocity 123, he wants to go to Sydney, so you've all heard the phrase, velocity 123, cleared to Sydney via docel plan route, via the SID, climb to 5,000, runway 16, docel 1 departure, squawk 1223, departures 132.0. So that's your sort of procedural SID. Your next one is your radar SID, where the aircraft can't actually do a procedural SID, hasn't got the equipment. So he basically gets, and I think in Melbourne these days it's a Melbourne 6, where, and if you look up the charts, I'm not sure, I'll just try to look for the charts and I'll bring it over. Bear with me. Okay, so you've got this is the Melbourne 6, it's a radar departure, and as you can see there, depending on what runway, they all climb to 1500, and then they turn to an assigned heading. You can see they all turn to an assigned heading. So what that means is you do what they call a next call. So they get to before they get to the holding point, make sure you give a next call. And normally I haven't got the flight strip here, but there's a little box where you can put notes on your flight strip, and I put next. So it sort of gives me, when I look at the flight strip, it gives me a sort of a memory sort of cue that, I've got to call tower. And you can do it as they're taxiing up to the holding point. Just say next, Qantas 123, and he'll look at his flight strip, say, okay, assigned heading right 290 or whatever. So then when he calls you ready, you can say velocity 123, assigned heading right 290, runway 16, clear for takeoff. So always do that before the pilot calls you. Okay, so that's something always. Hi Arthur, how you going? Yeah, so that's always, be aware of that next call, because you don't want to look like a bit of or you don't want to indicate to your examiner that you're behind the game, because by the time the pilot calls and you haven't done their next call, then it's sort of, you've got to, call approach. And while you're doing this, other aircraft may call you. So things start mounting up very, very quickly. Okay, so so just be aware of that. You need to give that next call if it's a departure, if it's a radar departure. Okay, and then the other one is just a VFR. It's just a VFR clearance. And you'll probably call, there's a fair chance you'll get some VFR aircraft, and he wants to take off from Melbourne, he wants to go to Shepparton, let's say. Okay, and he's not going to use a radar well, he's just a VFR aircraft. So now how do you give a clearance to a VFR aircraft? Okay, so let's say you've got a Piper Arrow, call sign Hotel Uniform Tango. He wants to go to Shepparton. How would you give him a clearance? And he's planned it, say, 6,500. So the clearance would be something like Hotel Uniform Tango, you cleared to Shepparton via Mangalore, planned route, maintain 3,000, squawk 1332, departure frequency 132.0. So I'm not sure, just make sure you confirm it with your mentor that propellers or non-jets, they're cleared. I think their auto release is still 3,000, but I'm not sure. It may be different these days because I did my tower thing a long time ago. So just confirm that if there's an altitude in your auto release function for VFR aircraft, if it's still 3,000. Okay, so that's your clearances. Okay, so your next thing, of course, is when the guy calls you up, an aircraft calls you up for a push and start. Okay, so that's fine. We all know push approved, but this may happen. You've got a guy there, and you may have a guy there, or you may have a guy there over here, and you got another guy here, and they request push. One guy requests push, and then immediately after another guy reports push. Okay. Now, and once again, the examiner looking for if you are situationally aware. So it's always good to advise the other guy that there's traffic or there's an aircraft being pushed back behind him or near him or next to him. So in this, let's say, for example, Qantas 123, he's called you up for push, and there's a guy behind him. He's in the process, or he's being pushed back. So what do you say to Qantas 123? Well, something like, Qantas 123, there's traffic at 737 or A320 with push approved behind, clear of that traffic, pushback approved. So, the examiner, that tells the examiner you're on the ball there, and you're telling this guy you're controlling the situation, rather than, let's say, for example, you don't want to look like a bit of a goose, and when one guy calls you pushing back and the other guy's pushing back behind, you say, Tower, we're going to wait for the other guy to push back, and then we'll initiate our push. Well, that shows the examiner you're not controlling the situation. So just always be aware of what's happening one step ahead, and stay on top of the game. That's what the examiner's looking for. Because at the end of the day, you can teach anybody how to say clear to land, push approved, clear to, Sydney via Dosel planned route. But what the examiner is looking for, you're staying ahead of the game, and you can see conflicts, or you're taking charge of the situation. So that's where a good air traffic controller or good controller sort of stands out. So, and the same with the taxi clearance. And I'll guarantee you'll have a situation, and let's say runway 16 is for landing. You'll get a guy and he wants to use echo, and guess what? This guy lands coming in, and he exits via echo, right? And you're going to have a nose to nose. So it's up to you to sort of take hold of the situation. In other words, let's say, for example, and it's also not get your head around where they all park. Qantas parks up here, Velocity's down here, Jetstar's down here. So if it's a Jetstar guy, he'll probably go through most aircraft go via Gulf, and it's not going to be a problem. But so you always be aware that if you've given some guy a taxi to holding point echo, and another guy lands, you can tell him to roll through to Gulf, because you've got a guy holding at echo. So tell the arriving aircraft, and he looks like, just tell him to roll through to Gulf, and he won't put his brakes on until down here somewhere, and he'll exit via Gulf. So Yeah, you can certainly do that. You can do that. You can ask them to plan to vacate at golf, yeah, for sure. It shows the examiner you're really thinking ahead, and you've got the guy at Echo. You can tell him to vacate golf. But you never want to be in a situation where you've got two guys, you've given one guy and he's taxing, and another guy, he's come off at Echo. Well, you can tell the guy going to the holding point to hold his position, and depends if he's a Jetstar guy, he'll go down this way, and you've told this guy to hold short of Alpha. Okay, so he sits there, and this guy will go around. So just take control. Now, of course, if he's a Qantas guy, and once again, not a big problem, just tell the guy taxiing to Echo to hold short of Alpha, have an aircraft vacating via Echo, and just tell the Qantas guy to turn down via Echo, via Alpha. So long as it sounds... Dino, how you going, mate? The cappuccino. Dino, the cappuccino. So, yeah, once again, it's showing initiative on your part, and it's also showing that you're really controlling the situation. You're not being a goose. Now, here we go. So, now, once again, how do we give this guy? So what we do, auto assign. Let's say runway 21 and 5,000. Okay, so if this guy calls up, what's my clearance? Cleared to Sydney via Hector planned route, via the SID climb to 5,000, runway 21, Hector 2 departure. So that's the way I normally do it. So you cleared to Sydney via Hector, okay, via the SID climb to 5,000, runway 21, Hector 2 departure, Squawk 7201 departures on. Now, of course, when you're online, I forgot what Perth approach is, but So, how you going, Perth Avia? Actually, I saw you the other day. You were on, what's the other guy he was streaming Perth, wasn't he? I actually saw that stream. That was pretty good. Actually, I think you went to. I'm not sure if it is you. Was it you? I think the flight you went to an 18-hour flight or something. So I'm not sure. Anyhow, I better change the ATIS. Now, there's the other thing. Always tell your people on the ground. Let's say, for example, 3 or 4 aircraft are called you and there's a change in the weather.
Perth terminal information, Charlie.
Okay, so, and then now it comes up yellow, and that means there's a change. So if I middle click anywhere there, it goes back. So see with the pluses, I'm not sure if you guys can see with the pluses, these are the changes. So if anyone's on the ground at Perth, just tell them all stations at Perth, information, Charlie now current, only changes are light showers of rain, temperature now 17, QNH 1012, because that's what the examiner's looking for. And more often than not, there will be a change. So you're telling all aircraft at Perth, information, Charlie, so they can change now their QNH, because if you don't, whatever you do, don't miss that, because the QNH. Oh, okay. He knows everything about Darwin. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so it went to runway 16, physics. Physics as in, the study of physics, or physics. Not sure. Anyhow, excuse the pronunciation, but yeah, always be on top of that. Always tell the aircraft on the ground what the current ATIS is. Okay, so You can see here that now I'm ready. Oh, physics. Good one. So, okay, clearance. Okay, the guy's got his taxi clearance and already. Once again, now let's say we go back to let's say this guy was on a radar departure. He wasn't on a procedural SID. I would put here, what I do is I do that. So that sort of gives me a heads up. But even just looking at there, let's say if this was Melbourne, you'd see the Melbourne 6 instead of Hector. Like for example, you can see that's the Perth 6. But I put that there, it gives me a heads up. So I know when this guy's taxiing, I've got to give approach a next call. So now, what's the next thing we're looking for? Arrivals, right. Okay, let's just sort of, and this will happen, trust me. The guy calls up, he's waiting on Charlie, and you got a guy who's been cleared the ILS, let's say. He's been cleared the ILS. Now, obviously, this is Melbourne because I wanted to talk about a thing, but I'll change it now to Perth. I like to have it like this. Now, so the guy's landing and another guy's waiting at the holding point. Okay, so let's say Qantas 6568 is at their holding point. When is it a good time between when the guy calls you ready and the other guy, when is it a good time to call, or safe should I say, to give this guy a clearance to take off and the other guy to land? Normally, I basically look for 6 miles, and what I mean by that, and you can see here, let me just change my map. Okay, see these little tick marks there? These are 1 mile apart, so 1 mile, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Hague is normally the ILS initial approach fix. So that's 8 miles. So any aircraft that's sort of 5 to 6 miles away, by the time this guy calls ready, you're pretty safe to give this guy clearance to take off. Under 5 miles, 4 miles, 3 miles, obviously, because he's got to do his departure checks and all that before takeoff checks. So anything outside of 5 miles and this guy calls ready, I can give this guy clearance for takeoff. Okay, anything shorter than that, say 3 or 4 miles, I tell this guy Qantas 568 hold position, expect short delay due to inbound traffic. Okay, or I could say this, and this is what the examiner, let's say you've given a guy that's on 3 mile, 4 mile final clearance to land, and this guy calls up, he's ready. You could say something like Qantas 568, company Airbus on 3 mile or 4 mile final, behind that aircraft, line up behind. So that's telling that's being expeditious. You're being safe and you're being expeditious. So you're quite right just to say, hold position, wait till another guy lands, he vacates, and then this guy, you tell this guy to line up, clear for takeoff. But you've killed it all in one phrase. In other words, he knows that after the guy that's landed, he can now quickly line up, he's ready. By the time he does his checks, the guy that's landed is vacated, and then this guy tell Qantas 568 contact departures airborne runway 21 clear for takeoff. So that's showing expedition, and you're ahead of the game. Okay, so that's what if you do that, you'll impress the examiner. Believe me. Now, there's another thing too, maps. So Now, some people, and I'm not sure how he does it. Who was the other guy that did the stream the other day? Put notes. So if you forget the runway names, they should be obvious because, that's another thing. Don't forget the numbers of the runway or the, 2103, 2406. Okay, so just remember that. But that's how I set my sort of, if I'm ever doing tower, and it's been a long time since I've done tower, that's sort of, and there's the other thing too. Okay, you got departures. Never take responsibility for a tag. In other words, like how I clicked in here, auto assign, but if I click PRE, see that's pre-active because you as a tower controller, you don't really have any airspace. Is that what it is? F9 Dino, is it? Okay, so look at that. Dino, you're a genius, mate. Absolute genius. So that'd be 2-4. Look at that. How do I get rid of it, Dino? So if I want to get rid of F24, so if I hit F9, and see, okay, so I hope I've covered everything. I'm not sure if there's anything else that really is to say, unless you want to see me operate Perth Tower. Middle click on it. Okay, so, look at that. Dino, you're bloody legend, mate. The legend. Yep, I've worked that out. There we go, see, click. So F9. So yeah, 2-1, 2-4. Okay, so that's, Hi Jason, how you going, mate? Good to have you on board. I'm not sure if, but tower controlling, you've got to realise that you don't own any airspace. That's the thing. If you're ever controlling what they call a class. Yeah, approach, Dino, I might do a thing on approach too. Hey, this is only the start, guys. I'm only just starting out. Approach is probably the hardest, actually, one to do because you're talking about vectoring and you really, really have to take control of the aircraft. Mind you, though, sometimes you get handed off aircraft by not too great a centre controller and it gives you headaches. The centre controller hasn't done a really good job at sequencing, put the aircraft too close together. But approach controlling, Dino, requires a real good knowledge of airspeeds, what the aircraft can and can't do. And I suppose if you fly, there's an old saying that the best controllers are the ones who fly, who have flown, and the best pilots are the ones that know how to control. So, they go in unison. So, because you can see it from the other side of from the other perspective, so, yeah, but with approach controlling, it's especially for rivals, you have to sort of have some sort of ability to know the speeds and how to sort of control speeds. And that in that regard, it probably do you good to, I think there's the thing called real ATC, where you can hear real air traffic control, and you listen to those guys, how they control and how they always put a speed on aircraft and get that sequencing right. Even though, really, it should be the centre controller's job to sort of, give proper sequencing. But The other thing, like I said, approach is the hardest. There's no two ways about it, because you've only got 30 nautical miles to muck about, and with 30 nautical miles approach controlling, it's really hard, See, with the centre controller, you've got hundreds of miles, and you can really initiate action from very, very early on in the flight, I normally, I put a 30 knot differential between aircraft to sequence them properly before I hand them off to the approach controller. So, and you can find if you put a 30 knot differential on an aircraft on their descent path, by the end of the day, over the entire descent path, you've got almost 12 nautical miles between aircraft. So that's plenty, and that gives you a fair bit of a buffer for aircraft when you hand them off to approach. Now, what else can I? Oh, I've got someone coming into. Where's he coming in from? EGLL. Where's that? Is that London? Somewhere in the UK? Is it Gatwick? EGLL. This is a great tool, by the way, and you all know about this. This is something, when it works, that is. Because you'll need this, hopefully. Heathrow, okay. Now the other one is this call sign checker. So if you don't know, you know all the common ones, but you may have.
Perth Tower, Qantas 568, requesting radio check.
Qantas 568, g'day, read your 5x5, how me?
Perth Tower, yeah, 5x5 QSL there, mate. Perfect. Look, so I might be right to get going in about 10 minutes, so I'll give you a shout out when I get a bit closer. It's Qantas 568.
568, not a problem. And Perth 8. Oh, okay, yep, that's me. Right, of course, I remember now. Okay, so Qantas 10 Alpha. We'll have a look. Oh, that's right. So you did you went Heathrow the other day, now you're coming back, I take it, I'm not sure. Know your aircraft type as well. So that's a 787-900, heavy aircraft. Now, what I wanted to say, that's the other thing I need to talk about, and I'm not sure if works here. Now, why have I got this going? Well, I'll tell you. There's a separation standard, okay? Tower has separation standards, and now one of them is a 2,400 metre separation standard. And what that says is as long as the first aircraft is 2,400 metres down from the threshold, you can give another aircraft a clearance to land. Okay? So let's say, for example, in this situation, you've got Qantas 10 Alpha. He's called tower up, and you've had another aircraft, let's say it's Qantas 568, and he's landed, and he is I don't know what happened there. Why doesn't... It's not playing the game now. Why isn't it? It had it going before. Always happens when you're streaming. But 2,400 metres is basically that Alpha 7 point, I think. Okay, so we can see velocity 9470. Now, let me have a look. Good. Okay, so I hit that point there. You can see that when an aircraft gets to about Alpha 9 down there, okay, you can tell another aircraft landing, you can give them a clearance to land, but you have to tell the landing aircraft of the presence of the guy vacating. So you could say for example, aircraft landing is velocity, or let's say Qantas 10 Alpha. Qantas 10 Alpha, aircraft vacating Alpha 9, or vacating runway now, or vacating on Alpha 19, runway 21, clear to land. As long as you tell the landing aircraft that, look, there's still a guy on the runway, but the 2,400 metre separation standard is in existence, then you can give that aircraft a clearance to land. Okay, so that's the thing. You can give the clearance to land if there's another aircraft on the runway. And just like there's also, when can you give one guy that's lined up, another guy clearance, and a guy's just taken off, when can you give the guy that's lined up clearance for takeoff? Well, as soon as this guy has initiated a turn. So as soon as the guy taken off has initiated a turn, you can give the next aircraft clearance for takeoff. Now there's something else, because I haven't done a tower. There has to be, as well as the turn, there has to be another, I think it's crossing the threshold of the runway, but look that up. It's there are a couple of instances where there are separation standards for the tower controller, so be aware of those. So yeah, and if you do that, and you give a guy a clearance to land, and then the examiner turns around and said, "Why did you do that?" And you say, "Well, I'm using a 2,400 metre separation standard," and he'll look at you and he'll go, "Gee, this guy's good. He's almost as good as pushing tin." Yeah, it's a gloomy day. That's why I've done this stream. It's a crappy day well, by West Australian standard.
That's how good. Afternoon, velocity 9470.
Velocity 9470, good afternoon, runway 21, clear to land.
21, clear land, velocity 9470.
So, yeah, he'll look at you and go, "Gee, this guy's bloody good. He knows his separation standards." So, know that standard, because once again, that shows you taking control, and you know your shit as well. So, that's always a good one to remember. Yeah, 22 degrees, but Scorcher. Hey, he's trying to give me a bit of competition, are you? That's a good stream, by the way. Well done on that. Very good. So, yeah, that's always a good one. Remember that 2,400 metre separation standard. Now, here's the thing. Let's say, for example, 03 is in use. Well, are you able to have LASO operations at Perth? What do you reckon, guys? You reckon you're able to have LASO operations, given the right, wind conditions, and there's all lots of conditions?
Velocity 9470, just a wind checklist.
Velocity 9470, winds are 260 degrees at 13 knots.
Velocity 9470, thanks.
Yeah, well, you can, because what you can do, you tell the guy, I got this problem again. Yeah, so somebody's landing runway 03, you can tell them hold short, and just telling the traffic landing on runway 24. So this runway 23, or 03, sorry, would be what they call the passive runway, and this one would be the active runway. So you can tell the guy, hold short, runway 24, have company Airbus landing, runway 24. So you have LASO. It's up to you, physics. I don't know, I might switch over myself. I might switch over myself and have a look at Scorcher. Pick up on him, see all the. I picked up a few things on what Scorcher could have done on his stream, but no, it was good. It's good to see. Give me a bit of a run for me money. I like that. Keep the standards. So yeah. So once again, 94.70. He's got to get down to about Alpha 9 before any other aircraft. If another aircraft calls, I can give that aircraft clearance to land. Oh yeah, okay, here comes Qantas 10. Okay, see you, physics. See you later. Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.
Velocity 9470 for Bay 205.
Velocity 94.70, taxi to the bay.
To the Bay, velocity 9470, good afternoon.
Now, I'm not sure whether I talked about VFR operations, but giving VFR clearance is a piece of cake. Once again,
First hour, Qantas 568.
Qantas 568, go ahead.
Yeah, Perth Tower. Requesting the airways clearance through you, presumably, and I filed, and yeah, back to you.
I like that. Back to me. Okay, back to me. All right. Qantas 568, you're cleared to Sydney via Hecto plan route via the SID climb to 5,000. Runway 21, Hecto 2 departure. Squawk 7201 and departures on Unicom 122.8.
Okay, cleared via planned departure to 5,000, runway 21, squawk 7201, can confirm that, and departure frequency of 122.8 or 5.
Qantas 568. So, yeah, so there's a sequence that always, when you're looking at a flight strip and you've got plenty of time to think about it, that's all right. I think I know what he was trying to say. Yeah, so just always be aware. The three things to look for, really. A, if he's IFR. B, if he's what sort of aircraft.
First tower, Qantas 10 Alpha Heavy.
Qantas 10 Alpha Heavy, g'day, Perth Tower. I'll tell you, Jacob, I've heard some fantastic phraseology over the years. What, 10 odd years I've been doing this. It's, yeah, some of it would, you're just amazing, you know. And I always go back to the same point, when you've got so much, so many resources out there, yeah, I'm just still amazed about how many, what people say. But once again, now, the thing I want to say is I'm on Perth because, you know, Melbourne was occupied. I would have loved to do Melbourne because, and it's not for me to really, this is just a personal opinion. I don't necessarily, and I understand where Vatpac or VatSim, you know, you get your tower controlling and you can go from here to Sydney, or you can go to Canberra, or you can go to Brisbane. I don't necessarily agree with that. And I know Vatpac are really stretched for resources, but really controlling Perth Tower is very different from controlling Sydney Tower. Because of course the runway configurations, parallel runway ops and, having independent and dependent parallel approaches and independent departures is very, very different to learning crossing runway ops. So I'm not sure. I mean, really at the end of the day, if it's all about resources, I fully understand, because it's hard enough now getting a mentor to sort of, I think the waiting period is a few months, I think. So it shows you how...
Qantas 10 Alpha, we're about 3 miles now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Qantas 10, apologies here. This old boy's can't stop yapping. But runway 21 clear to land.
Runway 21 could land, and no worries at all, Qantas 10 Alpha.
Sorry about that, mate. Sorry about that, Aviator. Perth Aviator. Actually, do you live in Perth? I take it you are. I think you do. So I think really what Vatpac should do is have a course for parallel runway ops, and that way you can do Brisbane and Sydney, and then have another one for crossing runways, i.e. that way you can do Perth, you can do Adelaide, you can do Melbourne. And then, of course, as you know, there's a procedure, and then there's the...
Perth Terminal Information.
Okay, I should have... Now see, once again, the winds have changed to 270 degrees. And I should have given Qantas 10 that information. But, so I just... Qantas 10 will call me up. I'll just tell him.
And Qantas 10 Alpha for Bay 20.
Qantas 10 Alpha, taxi to the bay, cross runway 24.
Taxi to the Bay, cross runway 24, Qantas 10 Alpha. Thanks.
So, that's my opinion. I think really, parallel runway ops is very different from crossing runway ops. It's not to say I don't know how to do tower at Sydney. But raise to hell. Yes, Taylor. Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. I had the luck of being under your scope some months ago. Yesterday I forwarded my request to move to Vatpac, Oz. So where are you from, Raise to Hell?
Perth Tower, Qantas 568, request push and start.
Qantas 568, push approved.
Push approved, Qantas 568.
So, well, thank you for that. So I think, but who knows? Once again, I'm not fully aware of all Vatpac's resources, so there may be, but it's a very different kettle of fish when you're doing Sydney compared to Melbourne. I'm from Italy. Ah, buongiorno. Sono anche io italiano. Sono nato qui però. And for you guys out there, what I just said is I'm also Italian, and but I was born here. That's what I said to Raise the Hell. Che parte dell'Italia? In other words, what part of Italy are you from? Okay, so really, any questions, anything I may have, I'm not sure whether I think I've covered everything. I've got some notes off to the side here. But the one thing that you always, if you're going to always, it's like flying an aircraft, you always got to be ahead of the game. Look for potential conflicts and sort them out. Don't wait for the situation to unfold. Oh, okay. ACJ, that's alpaca, isn't it? Ah, Perugia. Ah. Oh, yes, beautiful. Yes, I went many, many years ago to Perugia. What year was it? Oh, 1974. Oh, look at this, eh? What a missus. She's brought me in my chai tea. Ho, ho. You've got to be happy with that. Perugia. Used to be, I'm not sure, Raised to Hell. Is that still a university town? I remember back then, it was a university town. Beautiful place. So hopefully I've covered everything. I'll just go through my notes again. But the two big things that you're taking control, make sure you look like or be confident, take control of situations early, and be expedient. Ah, yes, so it is still a university town. Benny Big Bucks. I love it. Yeah, exactly, mate. Wouldn't be without the chai. Of course, mate. Oh, yeah, gotta love me chai tea. And especially when your missus brings it in for you. Oh, does life get any better than that? Oh, that's lovely. Oh, especially on a crappy day like today. It's absolute crap over here. It's all right if you're Melburnian, but nah. I've just come back from Tassie. I've been a week in Tassie, and yeah, I don't know. Each person to his own, but it'd be a struggle for me to live over there, I tell you. Talk about you need thermal underwear to live over there. PDC. How do I send a PDC? As in when the aircraft call you, I'm just trying to think. Let me get my thoughts together. Let me think about this. I know with the call sign. Let's say, for example, there's like a little plus sign. You give them a. Now, I'm just trying to think now. That's a good question, actually. How do you give them PDC? I think you click.
Perth Tower, Qantas 568, requesting taxi to runway 21.
Qantas 568, taxi via Bravo to Holding Point Whiskey, runway 21.
Taxi via Bravo to Holding Point Whiskey, runway 21, Qantas 568.
Now, PDC, wow, that's a good question. I'm sure there is a click spot that you can. There's a click spot somewhere. Where is it? PDC. Pre-departure clearance. How do you help? Now you've got me on that.
And Qantas 10, we're on the bay after 16 hours in the air. Thanks for the stream. See ya.
Qantas 10, not a problem. See you next time. Cheers. The arrow near the runway. Ah, yes. Okay. Yes. Oh, well, there you go. Actually, it's been ages. See, because I deal mostly approach or thing, and I don't do tower very often. Ah, yes. Well, thanks for that. I've forgotten that. Yes. Okay. Thanks, Benny. You're a legend. Thank you. No, hey, listen. Yeah, you've taught me something. And so that's very handy. But like I said, I don't do tower very often. So, and once again, for you guys that join me late, and you're thinking of coming over to do ATC, this is only like what I've said is only for supplemental material. This is no way meant to override anything your mentor says, because, like I said, I did this many, many years ago, and some of the things I tried not to get onto topics that may have been sort of overwritten by different rules these days. A lot of the standards still exist. A lot of the clearances still exist. Taxi instructions, obviously, yep, because are probably still, they're all applicable to what it is these days. So it's so I haven't delved too deep. I just want to make you guys aware that there are going to be gotcha situations which you're going to come
First
into.
tower, Qantas 568 holding Bob Whiskey, runway 21.
Qantas 568, runway 21, cliff takeoff.
Runway 21, clear for takeoff, Qantas 568.
Now, once again, I could have said, and depends now. Depends on what your mentor says. I normally says, let's say for example, Perth approach was online and whatever he was. Let's just assume he's on 123 decimal whatever 9 or something. I don't know. I would have said Qantas 568 contact departures airborne runway 568, runway 21 clear for takeoff. So that would be, or you could just say once he's airborne. Contact departures, but then that's 2 transmissions. So now I'm not sure these days how the mentor teaches people, but I just like to get everything out the way as quickly as possible, because I guarantee you when you're doing the exam, things quickly sort of start mounting up. So once you start delaying things, and personally I like to just do everything in 1 transmission, and that's so it gets everything out the way and done, rather than having to wait for this guy, because you may forget to tell this, if you haven't given him your departure or contact departures airborne, you may be sort of distracted and somebody else will call you, and then this guy flies over and then guess what happens? Approach dings you and said, Qantas 568, he's not with me. Can you tell him to contact me? And you go, oh shit, sorry. Oh, don't panic. The shit fight soon develops. You'll be surprised how quickly a shit fight develops. And it becomes, especially when you're learning, things become overbearing rather quickly. So, but as you get experience, you see things develop and you sort of become a lot more comfortable and things flow a lot better. Qantas 568, contact Unicom 122 decimal 8, cheers.
122 decimal 8, Qantas 568, thank you for your service, mate.
Now there's something else. You need to put this somewhere where, let's say for example, you forget there. So I know, let's say your examiner will put the approach frequency there, so just make sure you put that in a position where
Perth Terminal Information Echo. Expect ILS approach.
Well, let's go down to
Perth Terminal Information Echo. Expect ILS approach. Runway 24. Damp. Wind, 270 degrees, minimum 16 knots.
It probably isn't though, but you probably have 2 runway. You probably have 16 to 26. You probably 21's okay. But this is just for the hell of it. So really, the end of the day, the examiner is looking for conflict resolutions and expediency. So if that's the sort of thing, not sure if there's anything else. Thanks for the heads up on Benny Big Bucks on the the CP. That's really handy. That I like that. I like that. What else can I say, guys? Anything else regarding Tower? Like I said before, Tower does not own any, and I mean any airspace, unlike, for example, if you're doing a Class D, i.e. Jandicott, Parafield, all those airports. They used to be called, well, basically GAs. Back in the day, they were called GAP airports, General Aviation Aerodrome Procedures, but now they're called Class D, metros, I think. There's a name for them. Class D towers, Jandicott, all the GA aircraft. Mind you, they launch system tower, there's no GA. I actually took off from there the other day. I saw my mate in Tassie. But that's a procedural tower. But as you know, Archerfield's over in South Oz, Bankstown, Sydney, Camden's in, Sydney. Hobart Tower's not a GA airport. So they're all procedural. Jandicott Tower, as you know, the guys in Perth, Parafield, Rocky. But these are procedural. And that's a procedural. And that's a procedural. So not sure there. So they own airspace, and they have to use procedural standards, and we won't go into that because I don't even know them now. It was that long ago before I did it. So, but look at your strips. I can't emphasise that great enough. Make sure you're not giving a radar or a procedural SID to a guy who's planned VFR. You don't want to look stupid. And it'll be a mark against you. So there are certain, I don't know, for want of a better word, checkpoints that the examiner look for. Have you issued the right clearance for the right aircraft? Have you notified aircraft on the ground for any change in the ATIS? Have you resolved nose-to-nose conflicts? Have you been expedient, i.e. instead of waiting for a guy to vacate a runway before you get another guy to take off, you've given a guy to line up while the guy's still on the runway. So that's about it. What else? Anything else? Anybody out there? There you go. We all know that's a radar SID, and you can see radar SID before you turn him onto a signed heading or track. So that's the other thing. And I am streaming. 17. Oh, mate, I'm buzzing here. I've got 17 views. So, any questions? Say yes or no. All three of yous out there. No, yes. Or you want to watch me with this humongous. I'll have a look at. Okay. Some stuff happening. Oh, is it Anzac? Oh, that's right. There's an event over east, isn't there? Okay, now I know. Nothing looks like coming my way for a while. Qantas 10, Jack. It's going from Perth to Melbourne. But this is the situation over in the east. Very good. And that's the situation here. Yeah, okay. No worries, Benny. It's probably cold, actually. Just let me check. Because I'll tell you. Oh, yeah, that's getting cold. Whew. Bloody shocker. Oh. And also, never, don't make this pre-active, by the way. Don't click that. Otherwise, you take ownership of the flight strip. Because then the approach controller will take ownership over it as soon as he's handed off, or takes ownership of the data tags as soon as he leaves, or as soon as it comes up on his scope. He'll take ownership of the data tag and the flight strip. So, all right, guys. Well, I've been waffling on here for not sure how long. 1 hour and 6 minutes. I think that's enough for me. Enough said. I've probably repeated myself about 340 times. But like I said, just don't be nervous on the day. You can always redo the exam. And I wish you all the best, because it is enjoyable. I enjoyed the air traffic. I'm now starting to get into flying the jets now. The reason being is that there's this airline company that I want to join. It's a virtual. I'm not really one for virtuals, but this mob has but I really like, you guys probably, if I haven't said it before you do the exam, and it depends on where, look at the standard operating procedures, and I've said this 10 times before today, really get your head around that. But you can see, this is where this guy is really like, listen, I don't really like this sign with the shark, but this guy loves his sharks. But this guy is a 6-month study period. In other words, they teach you everything about the aircraft. There's only 2 aircraft that they've got, 737 systems and procedures, and these are the destinations. But you start off doing these destinations, real money. See, like for example, these are fares like real-time fares. They've only got a few aircraft. There's only 2 at the moment, 2 or 3, and they're really small at the moment. And they do things as close to real. Also, there's also emergencies. You've got to understand all the emergencies. So there's a 6-month study period before they do a check ride on you. So that's what I'm gearing myself up to. These are the operations. See, that's basically what they've got. MD-82, the 737-200, which I bought a few weeks ago, and I'm in the process of understanding and learning it. So there's an interview process. You have to know all your 737. It's not just like you sign up and that's it. Welcome to you have to prove to them that you know your shit. And it's only 200 hours, it's bugger all. But I've been involved in this game for 10 odd years, and I just make that 200 hours. And I certainly don't want to apply now, but once I get my hours up, I will apply. And that's really, it just appeals to me, because now that I'm retired, I can devote, 6 months of study. Whereas you younger guys out there, whether it's school or work or whatever, haven't got that time. So they're very, very fussy on who they recruit. Okay? Yeah, that's right. And that's that's my hope, that because I'm retired, I can devote the time. Because like I said, it's really full on. Their financials, they run it as if like a real world financials, They're not, they even though it's virtual, but let's say, for example, you're doing a flight from New York to Bar Harbor, and there's a video that he's got out and let's say if the airline makes, I don't know, $2,000, they wait until they have the money to buy another aircraft. They just don't sort of, oh yeah, we've got this aircraft, this aircraft, this aircraft, this guy. That's why they're trying to stay small and just follow real world financials and all that basically before they buy other aircraft. They don't want to be necessarily big. They want to be small and have a reputation of the pilots being first rate. Because I can tell you, I've seen guys come on and they're virtual airline, and I remember one guy, he took off from Melbourne. He's part of a virtual. Now, I'm not lying about this. Well, the sky's not blue, but as true as the sky is blue, he took off and he forgot to squawk mode Charlie. I said, whatever his call sign was, can you squawk mode Charlie? And it was like crickets in the background. Crickets in the background. And I thought, well, he's virtual airline. He knows what mode Charlie is. And silent. And I said, just confirm, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Squawk mode Charlie, and he logged off. And I went, holy shit, really? Like, you're flying a virtual airline, you don't know what mode Charlie is? You got to be kidding me. So, they don't want that sort of reputation. They want, first-rate pilots. And so that's basically it. And this is the guy there's this guy, where is he? Oh, there's the other guy that does a video. But they've got new destinations now. They're opening up a bit. But, it really grabbed me. And there was a YouTube. They'd done a YouTube. The guy I'm not sure what position he holds. He went through, and it's about an hour and a half video going through what they're about, what they do. So now I don't want to criticise a livery, because I know there's another airline, someone criticised a livery and he got shut out. So that's not. Okay, guys, I think unless there's anything else, the ATIS has been updated. What do we got? 280, we'll still say on runway 24, temperature.
Perth terminal information.
Okay, so, by the way, the middle click that, if I middle click into there, it changes to that colour, so just in case you want to know. Anything else? Who got a slap on the wrist? In what way? What do you mean? Why did you get a slap on the wrist? Okay, that's it, guys. I think I better close up. I don't want to harp on too much. I've been going off for too long as it is. Until next time, guys, I shall see us. No, the pilot not knowing. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I was just amazed. And, it's not, I've seen other. Yeah, I won't go into it. All right, thanks a lot, Arthur. Until next time, probably my next one will be getting tips and tricks for approach controlling. That will be a lot more detail, because I found personally approach controlling was pretty hard, because especially in Melbourne, see, as approach controller, you've got other airports, i.e. Moorabbin, which is Class Delta, you've got Avalon, so, and you've got Essendon. So you've got to look after all those guys top down as well. So you have a lot of shit happening. You've got guys overflying Melbourne, coming into Moorabbin. You've got to be on top of that. So approach controlling can get a bit hairy. I mean, and once again, doing Melbourne approach is very different from doing Perth approach. I mean, yeah, okay, you do all the SIDs, but the actual procedures and coordination and handoffs and all that, it can be different. So once again, read your SOPs and fully understand it. All right, guys, I think I'll stop it from there. I think the missus, I might talk to the missus about the quality of tea she's given me. But anyhow, till next time, guys, see you later, and